And Chelsea are world champions after their impressive 3-0 victory versus PSG. Now, we dissect into the game of who's impressed us at Chelsea, what went right for them to beat PSG when they were underdogs for that game. Severe underdogs, I have to say, as well. And then at this sort of end of this, we will give our Premier League early predictions on where we think Chelsea will finish. Are they the world champions? So they should be the Premier League champions too. But stay tuned for that. Jordan, we've got to start with you as our resident Chelsea fan. How are you feeling after that win?
I'm feeling brilliant. You might sound top of the world. I mean, look, this is incredible. I genuinely do not care what anyone else says about this tournament, being in it, whatever. The bottom line is we are champions of the world, and we are going to have that title for 4 years. You can say it's a new tournament, you can say it doesn't mean anything. The end of the day is £100 million with the title of champions of the world, and we're going to have that for 4 years. So I honestly do not care what anyone else has to say. And you look at the way we did it. Chelsea as underdogs in finals typically doesn't end well for the opposition. But the way we did it yesterday was incredible. And now is a good time to kind of reflect on where we've been, since 2021. And you look at the things we've been through as a club. We've been mocked for years. We've been laughed at. We've been a mid-table side. We've been called £1 billion bottle jobs. We have been ridiculed. The government has tried to destroy the club, take away our ownership. And we are here now, what, 4 years after that. Banter era, I think, over. And we have been crowned champions of the world, not because of an easy draw, but because we have beat the best team on the planet. And we haven't just beat them, we have absolutely dog walked them on the biggest stage. So I'm absolutely buzzing right now. I think, there's so many positive things now I can say about the club. And I think in the coming weeks, there'll be time for a lot of receipts. Neville Carragher been very quiet over the last 24 hours. Many people have criticised us, have gone silent. So for me, I'm absolutely buzzing, and I think 13th of July 2025 should go in everyone's calendars as the day that Chelsea Football Club are officially back.
Yeah, I don't think that's going in my calendar, I'll be totally honest. But Reese, where do you think it sort of went well for Chelsea? What was the reason for them beating PSG in this sort of manner?
I suppose, yeah, it's the overarching question is, were Chelsea that good or were PSG that bad? I'd probably argue it's a mixture of both. However, I would also argue that it's probably 70-30 in Chelsea's favour. Um, it starts off with pre-match. As soon as they say Chelsea are doomed, you know inevitably what's going to happen. Whenever they write off a team, the team that's written off tends to do quite well. So I think that doesn't help. I think Maresca in his sort of the way he was speaking about the game, and I think he was tactically aware. He had a tactical thing to approach of if they sit back and let PSG have the ball, they're going to get hit. If they attack PSG have got the quality to hit them again. So he had to get the balance right. And to be honest, he did exactly what I said to both of you two in the group chat a while ago. No one seems to have just thought, why don't we just match PSG? They PSG'd PSG. They were aggressive from the start. They went man to man. They were direct, forcing PSG to commit more forward at the same time, opening more space. They particularly attacked PSG's left-hand side. Nuno Mendes had an absolute horror show of a game, didn't he? Despite him being world class, they tormented them all game. I think moving Palmer to that right position was a really good move. That's where he's been effective before. He was effective under Pochettino there. And he was instrumental in making sure Nuno Mendes, was rather wish he'd left it back in the changing room, let alone playing at left back. So that's a numerous factors there. I do think PSG underestimated Chelsea. I think they expected Chelsea to sit back and just let PSG have the ball and go for it, which they did. They let PSG have the ball because they only had 34% possession. But they hit them in the attack. Like I said, they matched them man for man. The attacking plan was perfect. They outshot PSG, 2.6 expected goals, I believe it was. It was intense. And as soon as they got that early first goal, it was game over, just like we'd seen with PSG. it's game over. Simple as that. Utilised all their strengths and matched them. PSG didn't stand a chance.
Just on the XG point, the stat yesterday. So we were responsible for 38% of PSG's entire XG conceded across the entire tournament. So that really highlights, one, how good PSG have been across this tournament, but really how in one game in 90 minutes we were able to absolutely chokehold them tactically as well. And look, people have criticised Maresca, and look, a lot of people. I want to make this clear. A lot of Chelsea fans on Twitter with silly amounts of followers wanted Maresca out. He wasn't tactically inept. He was tactically inept. Was a championship manager. Wasn't good enough. And again, for those who are not following us, follow us on TikTok. My opinions on Maresca have been very consistent. You're absolutely mad to want him sacked. And in his first season, he has achieved more than most managers have in their first season. Like, it is absolutely ridiculous. And you have to give him credit as much as the players, because it was a tactical masterclass on every single level. And it wasn't, we were good for 20 minutes. From minute one of that game, the first 5 minutes, I was blown away at how good we were. And then I was like, okay, maybe it's just a good start. 10 minutes, 15, and it didn't really stop throughout the entire game. You've got to remember, Reece James is a right back. He's playing centre midfield. Cole Palmer is a CAM, a cam. Played on the right. Two of our best players playing out of position. Gusto, a player that people have criticised, including Chelsea fans. Absolute masterclass. João Pedro was on a beach a week ago, and he's put in two phenomenal performances. Like, I could go on, but there is so much positivity in what we have seen over the last couple of weeks. And it's exciting. And people will say, oh, PSG didn't turn up. Like, the reason they didn't turn up is because we tactically outplayed them, because their midfield could not get the ball. And that was fully intentional. And what they ended up doing was resorting to wide men and long balls, which didn't work. And that's why we beat them.
So just obviously we're going to talk all things Chelsea and obviously their success, but obviously drawing on how bad PSG are is important, because obviously these are the Champions League winners. They're the team that have blown their domestic league away, and they blew everybody away really in the competition this season. And of course, even in the Club World Cup, they're an unstoppable force. However, even a cynic can also still throw up another argument. As everybody got a bit too carried away about this PSG side, everyone was talking about the dynasty they were going to leave. And I would argue they were probably just the best team out of a lot of teams that are still in transition. But did this game particularly show the teams that PSG beat are actually not that good? Because Madrid underwhelmed in this tournament, underwhelmed last season. Since losing Kroos, they've not been themselves. Inter, an aging side in the Champions League, were overwhelmed and exhausted, hence one of the reasons they were so badly beaten. Arsenal are Arsenal, so we don't need to worry about that. But do you think it's just exposed maybe that this PSG team aren't that good? They're just in a position where it was going to take a team to match them man for man, or is that just maybe poo-pooing on Chelsea's achievement?
Well, to be honest, I said to you two when I saw the score at half time, was my video idea for today has gone out the window, because I wanted to talk about PSG not dominating for what people are saying, because they're putting in a brilliant sort of performances, beating teams 4-0 Real Madrid, for example. However, it doesn't mean that they're going to dominate for long. Now, in the league, they can dominate all they like, and they're going to win the league next season. I'll say that now. I don't know who they're going to sign, who they're not going to sign, who's going to leave. They will still win the league. The Champions League and sort of like that, well, the Champions League is everything else to PSG. The cups they should probably win as well. So it just doesn't reflect like that. And I don't think this side are a bad side. I think they're a very good side. But I don't think, they're going to go down as one of the all-time greats. And that's kind of where I was going into it. And there are certain things going... You've got to remember, they nearly actually didn't get through the knockout stages in the Champions League. If they lost to City when City were 2-0 up, and if that was a different City side, let's say a season ago City side, they would have beat PSG at their place, and PSG would have been out of the tournament, and then we wouldn't have spoken about it like this. And one thing they did show, which is still, I think, in their whole mentality of a club, is they blow up when things aren't going their way. And that showed, you saw the kick outs, the fights. After the game, you saw it with PSG, the rolling around, things like that. PSG do that when things aren't going their way. No one said anything bad about them when they were winning because it's going in their favour. It's going their way. It doesn't mean they can't get out of a 1-0 and turn it around to 2-1. But things, when they don't go their way, we've seen it time and time again in the Champions League. I've seen it against City, seen it against sort of likes of Bayern, Real Madrid, Chelsea yesterday. Things go wrong for them. They do implode. And that's why I don't think their dominance is going to be, what people was expecting before this 3-0 win. And annoyingly, I'm made to seem like I'm just jumping on the back of it, but I wanted to talk about that before the Chelsea-PSG game because I was expecting PSG to win, and that was sort of like a topic we can easily discuss.
Yeah, look, I disagree, to be honest. I think it's absolutely typical. Now they've been schooled in a big final by us. People don't like it, and they're going to go, "Oh, actually, were they actually that good?" I mean, they've won the treble. They've got one of the best managers in world football. They've got a young, exciting squad, phenomenal players, world class in near enough every position. And when we look at look, at the end of the day, what was it, 60-0 or something on aggregate? They'd beat all the teams, and that includes Madrid, Bayern Munich. They scored a goal against Bayern with 9 men, by the way. They beat Man City, they beat Arsenal twice, they beat Villa, they're beating everyone. So they beat Liverpool as well, the champions of England. Let's make that clear. So to now say, they weren't that good, I think is just completely ridiculous. Can other clubs get to that bar and that level? Absolutely. City have invested, going to improve. We look pretty good right now. Arsenal spending money. Madrid obviously are always going to spend money. So I think on the European stage, can other clubs get close? Absolutely. I don't think this is a PSG side that are going to go and win 3 Champions Leagues in a row, personally. But they are. I mean, let's be honest. They have been absolutely brilliant, and every pundit has said, every fan has said how good this PSG side are. So I know you said it at half time, Jamie, but as a collective, football fan base in general, to start U-turning on this PSG side now, I think it's dishonest, to be honest. But I think we have exploited some cracks and some chinks in their armour. They're playing in Super Cup against Spurs in a few weeks. They're gonna abuse Spurs, and everyone will be saying, "Oh, they're amazing again." So I don't agree with that narrative.
Well, remains to be seen there. I mean, it's food for thought for Enrique and PSG. There's no doubt about that. This is a competition that's now every 4 years, so they're not exactly going to get a chance to right the wrong. And that means there's more pressure on this Super Cup because if they lose that, there's going to be more people asking questions. And like I said, I do believe the standard in Europe was not as good as it should be or could have been. But again, let's go back to the Chelsea performance. As we know, this is probably one of the best Chelsea performances, technically the best Chelsea performance of the season, because this counts as the 24-25 season, in my opinion. Man to man, absolutely outstanding. But Jordan, were there any players that stood out to you in this game, and any other players that perhaps stood out in the tournament as a whole to you, and why?
Yeah, quite a few, obviously, after the performance yesterday. But from a tournament perspective, again, Pedro Neto. Again, I've been consistent. Even there was a weird section of the Chelsea fan base writing off Pedro Neto, baffling. Jamie, I know you've been critical of his kind of finishing in the past. I watch him week in, week out. I said it before the tournament. He is a very good player. He's got pace, he's got skill, he works hard, and he can finish. And I think in this tournament, he proved it all. In the final, again, he was brilliant. In the semis, he was good. We know what happened with Jota. Like that is a lot of players genuinely in that situation would have just taken time off. And I know people react differently to grief and everything, but that as well, outside of his tournament, I think is an extra kind of asterisk to say, maybe he gets bonus points for that. But Neto really, really has impressed me. And I think he's solidified his place now in this starting lineup. Hence, we sold Madueke as an example. For me, look, Caicedo, I just can't say enough good stuff about him. But I think in terms of the final, well, actually, I do want to touch on Cole Palmer again. I don't know how many times I need to say the same thing. I don't know how many times rival fans are going to go, "Oh, Saka's better, phone's better," all this absolute nonsense. He keeps delivering at what 23 on the biggest games. Like he doesn't feel pressure. Like he has nothing in his brain but football, and it absolutely works. Like he's got 2 goals and assists yesterday. Like you just, I don't want to hear any bad words about him again. But for me, the surprising two from yesterday were Malo Gusto and Robert Sanchez. Gusto, like genuinely unbelievable defensively going forward. Like he was responsible for really 2 of the 3 goals, you could argue. So, and again, Gusto is someone who a lot of Chelsea fans have criticised. Like, honestly, this section of the fan base just wants to bash so many players prematurely. And then yeah, Robert Sanchez, I literally speechless. Like we've all criticised him. Every single Chelsea fan has said, "Get him gone." And then he goes and puts in the performance of his life in a massive final. So yeah, you have to credit him. If we're going to bash him all the time for errors and whatever, you got to credit him when he's unreal. And I think people will be looking differently at Sanchez now.
Really, you think one game's going to change people's perspective of Sanchez?
Well,
But you've got to remember, like you got to remember, he played 38 games and had the most errors leading to, I think, shots. He can have one-off brilliant games. Don't get me wrong; he was very, very good yesterday, and I think he also stopped a PSG potential comeback with the save from Dembele, which was only about 6, 7 yards out. Phenomenal save and everything like that. But that doesn't. I don't think that should change your opinion overall because of one game. You yourself have said it as well that he's not good enough, and I don't think this one game should change that fact. Now he may go on. He probably is going to be your goalie next season, and Chelsea fans are going to have to just live with it, whether they like it or not. But I'm sorry, I'm not going to have one game go with, "Oh, we're wrong" on Sanchez. I generally don't see you being able to win the league over a 38 game period with Sanchez in goal. He can have you can watch him go play. It could be City versus Chelsea, and he could go and save like seven amazing world class saves. Doesn't mean he's not going to go and make an error in the next 3 games, because that's what he does, unfortunately, and that's where I think is his problem. It's he can have shot stopping isn't his problem. It's the rest of his game, and Chelsea needs someone who's got the rest of the game as well. So I don't think your opinion should just fully change on Sanchez, but I do agree he deserves a lot of praise for his performance yesterday because he was brilliant.
yeah, it's not just the final. Also, by the way, he peaked in the final, make no mistake. But throughout the Club World Cup, he's not put a foot wrong. Throughout the end of the season, he's not done much wrong, and we finished the season really strongly. So it's not just one game where I'm going suddenly, oh, maybe we should reconsider. For me, he's done enough to stay at the club. I'm not saying don't sign a keeper, but a bit of healthy competition never hurt anyone, right? You know, we've seen Pedro. I'll talk about him in a minute, but Sanchez has earned a bit of respect from myself, and Maresca already had it, but it's made me sit up and go, hold on, as he just had a bit of a bad start to the season. Because you've got to remember as well that the stat that kept getting mentioned, errors leading to goals. I think it was 5 errors leading to goals, but he got a lot of those in probably the first maybe 2 or 3 months, and because I remember that stat just being republished every week for like basically all the season. And then obviously the City one happened, but I don't know. You know, we say a lot. We said it. I remember you saying it like Grealish as an example. They take time. Players can take time to get used. I know he was in the Prem technically, so maybe that excuse doesn't work. But I don't know. Is he just a keeper who had a really bad start and is now finally improving and living up to his potential? He's done enough in the last few months for me to at least question it. But I do think we should still add depth either way. I'm not saying he's number one, absolutely. But yeah, really, you've got to give him credit because we've slated him all season.
Yeah, I mean, look, let's be honest, it's a prime example that football fans are fickle, aren't they? They'll say Robert Sanchez is great, then they'll say it's bad the next game. They'll ask why he's Playing every week, etc. Whereas reality coaches and managers do genuinely know better. They work with these players inside out. They'll trust the data as well. You know, playing Sanchez every game, how is he supposed to get better if he does not play? Is my sort of argument to that. And he's done very well. He's done very well. I agree. He still needs to improve himself because coming up week by week in a competitive league, he's going to have to improve, but I'm sure he will. Um, but to your point, George, as well, like in other players that impressed, we have to obviously we give mentions to Palmer. There's no doubt about that. But João Pedro for me, he appears halfway through the tournament, and bangs in three blinding goals. You know, it's not bad considering he was sitting on the south coast of Brighton just a couple of weeks ago, is it? So yeah, I mean, he's been incredible.
Yeah, genuinely a surprise. I said, weirdly, I don't want people to, be hypocrites now. No one was like extremely excited about signing him. The way I viewed it was he's another player who can play in multiple positions, which I don't necessarily think we need. We've seen with Nkuku, not really worked out. But my word, like even the cameo in the first game where he come on for 20 minutes, it was just, everything about it was just unbelievable. And there was a few rumors, like I can't remember the pundits that said it, but like he has the belief, he has the confidence to believe he could be one of Brazil's best players. And I kind of laughed at that when someone said it. I was like, all right, yeah, I'm sure every Brazilian player says that. And just the way he's been moving in 2.5 games, like it's just ridiculous. Like his pace, his energy, his positioning yesterday as well. Like any time we attacked, he was in the right position. And it's so refreshing to see that. We've not had it for so long. And again, we've not seen a striker who can just put the ball in the back of the net. He's 2 goals against Fluminense. It's 2 screamers. The goal yesterday, absolutely beautiful. And it is just, honestly, it's so refreshing to see. And I think for a signing that no one was excited about, he's already made every Chelsea fan U-turn on that in literally 2 and a bit games. So now suddenly I'm really excited because we were buzzing about Delap. Delap looks brilliant, and then we've got another one. I mean, Jackson. I don't know where this leaves Nicholas Jackson, to be honest, because suddenly we've got so much depth in attack. It's exciting.
Yeah, I do feel like I agree with what you're saying there, Jordan, where no one was really going, wow, what a signing for him. And he's absolutely hit the ground running. Sort of the goals he scored, the sort of three he scored, all brilliant goals. Like, and it's not just he scored the goals. His link up play has been there already. So it's very exciting for Chelsea to see that, for a guy just to come straight in and do it, because normally you'd need a bit of time or just to fit in, just to know how another person plays. But he's done really well. The only thing that could be an issue is the goals he's scoring aren't the sort of goals that I would expect Delap to score. So it does work quite well that you've got both of them, but like the sort of the 5-yard tap-ins, kind of things like that. Because you've already got Palmer who can score them more screamers, unreal sort of goals, do you need someone who's just there? And that's the only criticism I could have, that it's not going to be that 5-yard tap-in, but doesn't mean you can't put on Delap for it. It's just, how would all of them fit in? And I don't see how all of them would fit in at the same time. It would have to be a rotation. It's sort of a... It's not a proper criticism, but it's a slight one. That's all I can really go off, because he's hit the ground running, exactly what Chelsea needed and wanted.
Yeah, I think, again, it's a good problem to have at the end of the day. It's something we've lacked for a while. We've all acknowledged that we need a proper striker. And now we've got, 2 or 3 different profile strikers now. So I really don't see it as a bad thing at all. There's competition, which we needed, puts pressure on Jackson as well to step up. And even yesterday, you look at Delap when he came on, that run, it was literally within 20 seconds of him coming on. That brilliant run, power, pace, and almost, I mean, fair play to Donnarumma, almost scored a worldie. And, Delap was on for 20 minutes. He could have had 2 goals. So Yeah, I think it's exciting. One of the biggest problems for us in the Prem is finding consistency, but breaking down teams that low block. And I think the more options and the more profiles of attackers you have, the more likely you can, make subs that impact the game. So again, I can't really pick holes in it at the minute. I only see positives right now.
No, that's fair enough. So obviously, in terms of the future, then you'd argue that you can't really improve on much when you're considered the best in the world. But we know that in terms of football, it continuously moves and continuously evolves. So Chelsea's attentions will focus now on the league because there'll be more scrutiny on how their league performance is. As we know, more success, more successful trophies brings more expectations. So where do we say that Chelsea can build on this? Because this is the first sense of optimism for the first time under Bowley. Um, where do Chelsea go from here? What should be their bare minimum next season, Jordan?
Uh, I think we've just got to, well, we have to cement now being back where we belong in the sense that we are a top four side. And regardless of all these mid-table teams really improving, regardless of Spurs and United investing, we are the top. We are in the top four, and we're not. No longer are we going to float around this Conference League, this mid-table BS. We need to cement ourselves in the top four now. I think, look, we know the league is more competitive than ever. We know, as I said, City invested, Liverpool invested, Arsenal invested, Chelsea invested. Like the top, and even United, Spurs, every major team is investing. So you've got to remember that as well. But for me, we came fourth. Can we now go up? Can we finish top three, top two, and really can we put a pressure on a title charge over a 38 game season? I think that's the next step. It's too early to. I don't think football works as simple as that. We win a big tournament and then we just go and win the league. I don't think it's as simple as that. But I think we're now starting to build the mentality, starting to put the tools in place to allow us to hopefully compete in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I'd say the same. You've got to get top four next season as a minimum, even if I actually think you still need top four, even if five places get Champions League. Because at the moment, you'd say the top three for the past sort of several seasons is kind of City, Arsenal, Liverpool. That's kind of how the top three is. Chelsea need to make that a top four. Whether they're coming fourth, whether they're coming third, second, first, that's what they need to do. Coming fifth, then possibly even dropping down to sort of lower than that, isn't good enough for a club like Chelsea. It's not for other clubs who are also in there. So someone's got to be disappointed. Don't get me wrong, but Chelsea have got to make sure they're not the club to do that. Where other clubs may fall into that category who are disappointed, say United and Spurs were definitely this season. City, Arsenal, Liverpool could all drop off. And Chelsea for them just have to make sure they're not one of them. They don't want another season where, I know they got fourth, but that came down to the final game of the season. Away to someone who's fighting for the top four places, that's not what you want. I know they did win, and it was, good performance, one away, good result, but you don't want that. That's what you don't want. You want it cemented a bit more before. That's kind of, I think, the next step for Chelsea.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I think like obviously this is a platform to build on, but as we know in football as well, there will be more pressure, like I said a little bit earlier. I fully expect actually Chelsea to get the top two next season. Even though I think the league is going to be more competitive than what it was, I still think there are gaps in quite a few teams. I think Man City are going to be the biggest challenge for the title this season, followed by yourselves. But Spurs will be stronger. I expect United to be stronger. I know Liverpool splashed money on Verts, but I think there's still a bit of a weakness there. Arsenal had their chance last season, so I don't expect anything near that again. You've still got Newcastle around there. But you're going to have to see how you do in the first few games. Your first four games, you should be expecting maximum points. They're all London derbies, if I'm not mistaken, which is rather odd. But you should be winning all of those with the players you've got. there's no point complaining about tiredness because you've got a lot of strength in depth as well. It's natural to be tired, but you've got the strength in depth to deal with it like other clubs do not. I think it's onwards and upwards from here. It's how Maresca deals with, particularly the scrutiny he got last season, how he adapts and how he continues to evolve, which, as we saw in this final, he is able to. So I think Chelsea are going to do very, very well next season. It doesn't even matter if their best players get injured because they've got so much depth. But obviously, the pressure is to deliver. The minimum is top four, whether they want to accept that or not. It has to be. And I believe full well that they will get that and more. So I think next season's a big one for them.
I hope you're right. That sounds good to me. Top two consistently. But yeah, I think one final point just before we wrap up as well, we've not discussed, and we'll probably discuss it more over the summer, but I think when you look at our squad and PSG's, it's two of the youngest squads in the competition. And I think we are potentially on the cusp of a bit of a new era of football where you can win trophies with kids. The age-old saying, I think, is slowly being diminished. PSG have proven it with a young team you can win the treble. Chelsea have proven you can win trophies with kids. So I do think we are going to start to see a real shift over the next 5 years in football in general.
Well, you can do it when you both spend hundreds of millions of pounds.
Yeah, exactly
Money
that. Exactly that.
buys football. You can't win success by not spending a penny, if that helps.
Absolutely. And on that note, we will wrap up. As always, thank you for viewing. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. But as always, like, comment, and subscribe. You know the drill.